football family. Welcome to the first ever Broughton Football Leadership Forum. I'm Coach Dawson, the head coach of the Broughton football team. Thank you so much for being here. This is a new thing we're doing, and it serves two purposes. So let me talk about both before we get started to clear up any confusion ahead of time. So first and foremost, this is an examination of the ways in which football, when coached the right way, can transform young men into leaders for positive change in their communities. In particular, I want to examine some of the things that the Broughton football program does to help shape future leaders. But we also have four speakers who are not directly involved in the Broughton program, all with NFL careers, and they're going to share their experiences, insights, and wisdom with us as well. In addition to a leadership forum, this is also a fundraiser for Broughton football. Due to COVID-19, we had to cancel our spring golf tournament fundraiser, and then also the card sale that our players do every August. And that's where the vast majority of our football money comes from. Football is an enormously expensive sport to run, and without your help, we would be in real trouble. So we want to make sure that we can equip all our players for this upcoming season. So the vast majority of our time tonight is going to be dedicated to discussing leadership and football, but I am going to take some time at the very start to recognize our sponsors and encourage others watching to become sponsors. One really important note is that parents of current players, if you're watching this, do not send us money, okay? We're not asking for your money. We don't fundraise from families in the program. There's plenty of other ways for you to give throughout the season, as you know. For everyone else, though, former players or parents of former players, friends of the program, we would love for you to give if you haven't already, and would love for you to join our football booster group, the Broughton Gridiron Club. Broughton Gridiron Club is an organization of alumni and friends of the Broughton High School football program dedicated to providing direct financial assistance to support the Broughton football program, increasing awareness of and advocating for Broughton football, mentoring current players, and sponsoring special events related to Broughton football like this one. To join the club, you just have to make a donation each year of any amount. Even $1 is fine. As a member, in addition to supporting the team, you'll receive weekly emails during the season with game recaps and summaries of our character lessons. Finally, if you're already a member, we ask that you donate each year to renew your membership. So if you've been in the club but haven't given this year, please do. We will provide information at the end of the program explaining the different ways you can donate, where to go online, where to send checks, all of that kind of stuff. So before we get into the program, I'd like to thank our major sponsors for tonight's event. First, a big thank you to York Properties for being our title sponsor. I also want to thank all of our gold level sponsors, Oak Grove Technologies, John Anderson and City of Oaks Law, Debbie and Chris Woody, John and Jill Dickerson at Dickerson Hearth Products, Carr McLam and Sarah Hiddle at Dark Horse Unlimited, Jamie McCaskill at Longleaf Law Partners, Mark Rydell, The Strength Feed, and Indigo Hot Yoga and Wellness Center. I'd also like to thank our purple sponsors, Jimmy and Charles King, Will McElroy and Dogwood Properties, Les and Elton Parker at L Park, Bill Noble at Trust Company of the South, the Shrum family, Ashley and Barry Mann, Merge Capital, the class of 2006, Walt Brown, and Connor and Maggie Clougherty. Finally, I want to give special recognition to three of the most generous donors we've had during my 4 years at Broughton, and I got you each a little gift. So Mark Gross at Oak Grove, you're the man, number 13, Broughton jersey. The Woody family, in particular, Big Chris Woody and Debbie, thank you so much. And Smead York, who wore number 55, on a state championship team at Broughton. So thank you all so much. Okay. Let's get into the program. So last Monday, I'll start with this. Last Monday, I received a text from a senior who just graduated, who played football for us, and who has now departed for basic training in the Army. He was leaving last Monday, and right before he left, he texted me this. He said, "Before they take my phone, I'd just like to say one final time how thankful I am to have met you and that you helped me become the best version of myself. I love you, Coach. All the best for you and the Broughton football family." So, that's the kind of text that lets you know you're doing the job you were created to do. But it's also a kind of text or email that's not uncommon for coaches in our program to receive. And I think that's because we're a really special program. I believe we're special because of the emphasis we put on teaching character, loving our players, and building family. And I believe that's why, at a time when 99% of football programs across the country are hemorrhaging players, we are growing. When I took over in 2016, we had just over 80 players in the program. Last year, we were at 130, and we currently have 150 signed up to play this year. I believe that at our core, all of us want to be the best possible versions of ourselves that we can be. We all want to treat people the right way and make the world a better place. We all want to live with courage, integrity, empathy, enthusiasm, and to have a great work ethic. But if we want to do all of those things, we need explicit instruction and we need accountability. And that's what we, as a program, provide our players. We devote a ton of time to teaching and practicing character. During training camp, we have a 30 or 45-minute character lesson every day. And once school starts, we have a lesson each Monday that we reiterate for the rest of the week. We also split the boys into 8 very diverse family groups or teams. Each family is a heterogeneous mix of races, ages, and positions. And we ask them to spend time together off the field and really get to know each other. We ask our players to break down the artificial barriers that keep our society, even in 2020, largely segregated, and to get to know on a deep level guys who don't live in the same neighborhood as they do, have the same skin color as they do, practice the same religion as they do, etc. And they do it and they love it. The mission of our program is to change the world by teaching boys to be good men. I'm going to say that again because it's at the heart of what we're talking about tonight. The mission of our program is to change the world by teaching boys to be good men. When they graduate, they won't just leave, they will be sent into the world with the strength of character to achieve personal success, build loving relationships, fight against injustice, and champion the cause of the powerless. They are sent to change the world. Now, the idea of a mission-driven program is not one I came up with on my own or would have ever come up with on my own. It was a concept I learned while I was teaching and coaching for 10 years at the Gilman School in Baltimore, Maryland. 2 of our speakers tonight, one coached there, one was a student there. The only reason I ever ended up in Baltimore teaching and coaching is because of our first speaker, Joe Ehrmann. The summer before my senior year of college, my uncle gave me a book that changed my life. It was called A Season of Life, and it chronicled the way that Joe and other coaches used his philosophy of building men for others to create a football program at Gilman where boys weren't afraid to love each other, talk about their feelings, empathize, and be authentic. After reading the book and seeing Joe speak, I applied for a job at Gilman and got it. In Baltimore, Joe became a profoundly influential mentor for me, and Joe's coaching principles are the foundation of Broughton's football program. Before coaching, Joe was an All-American football player at Syracuse University, where he also lettered in lacrosse. Joe played professional football for 13 years and was named the Baltimore Colts Man of the Year. He was the NFL's first Ed Block Courage Award recipient, and he was named the most important coach in America by Parade magazine. Joe now spends the majority of his time teaching coaches across the country in all sports and at every level how to be transformative coaches. Joe, thank you so much for being here.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, Chris. And that was a very gracious introduction. But I do want to thank your boosters and your players and your parents for supporting this. And as Chris said, I met him 10 years ago and just fell in love with who he is, his character. And character is learned, therefore it can be taught, but it can't be learned if it's not modeled. So Chris is the essence and the epitome of a transformational coach. And as parents, to have someone love and concerned about your players is just terrific. So I would like to just take a couple minutes and talk about Chris's Broughton football and Chris's mission statement to help boys become men who will change the world. I was in high school and college right at the intersection of the civil rights movement, the women's rights movement, and the war on poverty. I think as a nation, we started to ask all the right questions. What is the role of race and class and gender and sexual orientation as it speaks to the inherent value and worth of every human being? I think we started to ask those questions in earnest almost 50 years ago, and they still haven't been answered in this country. We still live in a world filled with racism and sexism and all kinds of isms that marginalize and minimalize other human beings. So I think as we enter this COVID-19 season, we see the disproportionate burden on economic and health on brown and black communities. We see the largest movement in the history of America in the Black Lives Matter movement. I think it all speaks to the incredible importance of this program. It's not just a football program. This is a program that promotes social justice and create a society where every man, woman, and child can live with dignity and status and have opportunity to participate in the world. So to help boys become men, what an admirable task. I would say the greatest crisis in America today, foundational to many of our deepest entrenched issues, is the crisis of masculinity. What does it mean to be a man? How do you define that? And every boy is given 3 fundamental lies in this culture about what it means to be a man. And I know this is what Chris and his coaching staff stands against. Now, the same lies that were fed to me are being fed to the young men in this program. And by the way, congratulations on having the number of players participate. Boy, that is a real testimony. But every boy is given 3 fundamental lies. And the first lie you learn at a very early age is somehow in America, we associate masculinities with issues of athletic ability, as though you can measure a man by his capacity to catch it down and out or hit the hanging curve. That is a fundamental lie. Being a man has nothing to do with athletic ability, whether you're the star player on the Broughton team or a contributor down at the end of the bench. Second lie every boy learns in America is that somehow masculinity is associated to sexual conquest, as though you can measure what a man is based on his capacity to use young girls to validate his own masculine insecurities. Then the third lie in this culture has to do with economic success, as though you can measure what a man is based on his job title, position, the amount of possessions someone has accumulated. And I think as a coaching staff connected to a school, to be able to have a platform, and really what coaching in sports creates, it's nothing more than a platform for a coach like Chris to look young people in the eye and affirm their value, their worth, their human dignity, the capacity they have to give back and to change the world for better. I think at the end of the day, masculinity, like all humanity, is about 2 fundamental things. One is the capacity to love and to be loved. I think men learn how to lead from their heart. They don't get disconnected from their heads. Men learn how to love and enter into reciprocal relationships for the betterment of this world. And then I think the second thing that masculinity and all humanity is about is commitment to a cause. all of us need to answer the question why we're here on this planet. What is our role? What is our purpose? And I think the purpose of every human being is to reach their greatest potential and to benefit other human beings, to help other people understand their value and worth as well. So I want to congratulate Chris. I want to congratulate his coaching staff, and particularly you as Broughton supporters, the booster clubs. You've got something very special in your community, something incredibly special in your school. And I'm glad you're here today to honor that. And I want to thank Chris for the ability to speak into that. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of the speakers as well. So, Chris, I trust it's going to be a great night for you and a great night for Broughton football as well. Thanks for the opportunity, and thank you for your friendship.
Joe, wow, thank you so much. I never get tired of hearing you speak. It was hearing Joe speak in Ruston, Louisiana. Matt actually would have been there with me, Matt Forte, who I'll introduce later, but it was after Hurricane Katrina. I heard Joe speak. It was the most impactful speaker I've ever heard. I think you got a taste for that tonight, and that's why I ended up at Gilman. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your mentorship. I really appreciate it.
Well, your hope, and the function of hope is to keep present realities open for future possibilities. And I think Broughton is a sign of hope in this world of athletics and in the world. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Joe. That was awesome. So our next speaker is Davis Clemens, and the reason Davis is going to go next is he's going to talk about something that connects to what Joe was talking about in terms of serving a purpose greater than yourself. So he's going to touch on servant leadership. But first, a little bit about Davis. Davis was a freshman my first year at Broughton, and coaching him for 4 years was an absolute delight. He's the perfect teammate. He leads by word and by example. He sets the tone with his effort, his attitude, his enthusiasm, his kindness, and his love of the game. He played football and baseball at Broughton, was a captain of both teams this year. Also this year, Davis, who you can't tell as he sits there on his bed, is only 5'7". And the only reason I mention that is because it makes what follows even more incredible. He led the entire state of North Carolina in receiving yards per game and was named first team All-State. On top of all of that, he had a 4.0 GPA in our International Baccalaureate program, which is the most rigorous academic program in the school. Next year, he's going to play football at Randolph-Macon, or I should say this year. He's also going to study education while he's there because he wants to be a teacher and a high school football coach after college. And I have a job waiting for you, buddy. Thank you for being here, Davis.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Just really thankful to be here talking with y'all tonight. And when Coach asked me to talk, I was thinking about what I would say. And I think one of the most important lessons we learn in our character lessons each summer, and he does it very early in the summer every year, is how to be a servant leader. It's really a radical idea that the leader of a team or a group of people is there to serve those people and not necessarily always be the big, strong man, leading the group. The leader can be the servant as well. And so I thought it was really important, and it stems from what Coach Ehrmann was just saying about how to be a good man and how to take care of others, and what our role in this world is as men is really to be servant leaders. And so quick 3 points here on servant leadership. I think the first point would be to be the example. Our actions always speak louder than our words. As leaders, we should always conduct ourselves in a way in which we wish to see our teammates and the people around us act. So that's how we treat others in the locker room, how we respond to our coaches, our work ethic on the field, what we do in practice. We always have to be the example to show others what our standard is for our program. We have to set the standard high and hold ourselves to that standard if we ever want other people to hold themselves to that standard as well. And on that note, if we fail to do that and set bad examples, that can give the people around us an excuse to fall below the standard and that's only going to hurt the team, hurt the community, the group of people you're trying to lead. And so the second point I had here was we need to be able to do the things that no one else wants to do. I think the best example of this is with the New Zealand rugby team. Last year, I got to be a part of the leadership council, and Coach, he had us read a book called Legacy. And it's about the New Zealand rugby team and how they became as good as they are today. And so what they had to do was they had to change some things within their organization, and they had to become more accountable for themselves and things like that. So one of the things they talk about is how they would sweep the sheds, and they wanted to set the standard for their team by, we're going to be a clean team, we're going to keep the locker room clean, and we're going to be organized. But the really interesting thing about it was, it wasn't the rookie's job to clean the room. It wasn't even the manager's job. No one outside of the team was cleaning the locker room. It was the captain's job. It was the veteran on the team. It was the leaders of the team who took it upon themselves to go and clean the sheds, to clean out the locker room. And this really stems from the fact that they say in the book, they believe you should never be too big to do the small things. As good leaders, we need to be able to humble ourselves to do those little things that help the team, that help us get to where we want to go. Because these are things that have to be done in order to keep that standard high and to keep the team moving forward. And so as good leaders, we are serving others by humbling ourselves to do the little things. And this can be everything from cleaning the locker room, clean the field after practice, anything like that. And I think we have a really good example in Coach Dawson. So many times after games, Coach would always be the last person to leave the field. And there was quite a few times where I'd be on the bus at an away game or walk into the locker room, and I would see Coach there bringing in the 2 giant ball bags that we take out to the field. And this is the head coach, the main leader of our program, is humbling himself to do a little thing of grabbing the ball bag, because it makes our job of cleaning up the field easier and quicker. And so he believes he's not too big to do that little thing. And I think that's a great example to look at when we're talking about humbling ourselves. And so the final point I have is, you don't have to be the star player to be a good leader. Ronald Reagan had a great quote. He said one time, the greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one who gets the people to do the greatest things. So I think it's just a great idea of that. We don't necessarily have to be the guy on the field, scoring all the touchdowns, making the tackles. We can be an effective leader if we are serving our team, helping everyone on the team be the best version of themselves and get to a better place. And that's going to help the team perform and keep on to that standard. And so I think that's a great point, because we can take that into everywhere we go. It doesn't just have to necessarily be sports. It doesn't have to be on the football field. That's something we want to, or we can take with us into the rest of our life. Where in our workplace, we don't have to be the CEO of the company. We don't have to own the company. We could just be an employee there, but we can lead our fellow employers and people in the community, whatever we're doing, by trying to serve them and trying to empower them to be the best version of themselves. And that's really the greatest things that we can do as a leader.
Davis Clemens, bravo. Well done. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And I would just like for everybody out there to know that Davis did all those things. And Davis was universally respected by his teammates, not just because he was a great receiver, but even more because he was a great servant to the team. When you think about a lot of the problems we see in the world, when leaders are only in it for what they can get, a lot of bad stuff happens. But when leaders are in it because they only are concerned with what they can give, that's when great things happen. So anyway,
I'm 5'9", by the way, not 5'7". Cutting me short there a little bit.
You're 5'5". That's okay. Split the difference. Doesn't matter. He's going to have a monster college career. All right. Yeah, thank you. So next up, I think we were having some trouble logging in. There he is, my guy. So Willie Parker is, a lot of you in the area will know because you're Carolina fans, and some of you super fans might know that he's a Clinton guy. Willie was a Clinton dark horse, a standout football and track guy. And then he went on to UNC and played running back for 4 years. And then he was signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he had just an outstanding NFL career. During 6 seasons in Pittsburgh, he won 2 Super Bowls and was named to 2 Pro Bowls. He still holds the record for the longest touchdown run in Super Bowl history, a 75-yard touchdown and a win over the Seahawks in Super Bowl 40. Willie lives in Cary now, and we were introduced by a mutual friend this spring, and it's just really been a pleasure getting to know him. He's led our team through a workout, which was pretty cool. And Willie, can you hear me? I see your.
Yes, sir.
All right. Are you I don't see a picture of you. Is that okay?
I don't know what.
Willie's a really handsome guy. I hope everybody gets a chance to see him. There he is. All right.
How you doing?
Take it away, Willie.
First and foremost, the guys before me, you did a great job. Turning boys into men. And my topic is discipline. Staying disciplined in between the lines, and I'm going to talk about how it correlates with staying disciplined in life. Staying disciplined in between the lines. Turning boys into men, they go hand in hand. Because you have mistakes, like through each and every play, and in life you're going to have the same thing. You have mistakes, you have people coming at you, and you got to make a decision, and it can go either way, and you probably make a mistake. But discipline is staying on that narrow path. And I know you guys hear it all the time. Your coach preach, stay disciplined, stay focused, and they keep repeating this over and over and over in practice. Right. The reason why they're preaching this is because in life it's going to be the same thing. You have to be in that narrow path in life. They're going to be crowd noise. It's going to be that crowd noise, that same like noise you had on Friday or you had last year. It's going to be coming. You got to block that out and stay on that narrow path and keep moving forward. And the same thing with no turnovers. Like they preach, you got to stay disciplined. You got to get your blinders on and block everything out, just like the crowd noise. Like and when you're doing this, you can't make any mistakes, no fumbles, definitely no turnovers, not within that play. And if you make turnovers within the play, you setting yourself up to be on the losing end of the ball. Like, but if you can learn how to block it out. Stay on snap count. Stay on the snap, and just stay focused. You have a chance to succeed. Determination. When you discipline your life, you become a really determined player, life athlete. Like and pretty much, when you become determined, you're doing it again. You getting the right amount of sleep. You eating healthy, you setting goals in life, and you stand on that narrow road and trying to accomplish everything you set out. And then by staying disciplined, and my final point is how it promotes and produces confidence within yourself. You're going to need it. Turning boys into men, you're definitely going to need the confidence to stay on those narrow paths. Put yourself in positions to score in football and in life, and just accomplishing all goals are set. But I just want to say, turning boys into men, you definitely have a great chance when you stay in discipline. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Willie. You're the man. You mentioned focus over and over again and attention. And we live in a world where it's harder and harder to pay attention with all the cell phones and everything around you is just competing and and we tell our guys all the time, if you can be the person who controls his attention, you have the advantage in every situation. So obviously something you were able to do in your career, and I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, take care. All right, next up, because he's going to talk about discipline as well, is Dabron Belfield. Dabron is one of my favorites, a 3-sport athlete at Broughton. He excelled in football, basketball, and track. as a senior on Team 90, which was 2 seasons ago. It's the class of 2019. He led the team in receiving and helped propel them to Broughton's first playoff victory in 15 years. The last coach of Broughton to win a playoff game was actually my stepfather, Dave Bruner, greatest coach I ever played for. And he's going to be back this year coaching our receivers, which is bad news for the rest of the world when it comes to high school football. So Davron earned offensive all-conference and academic all-conference honors that year. He's at North Carolina Central now with several other Broughton football guys. He plays football there, and he majors in criminal justice. After college, he aspires to play professional football and then become an FBI agent, which is really cool. One last quick note I'll share about Davron. I taught English for 10 years in Baltimore and then also my first 2 years at Broughton. And I had an assignment for my juniors where they had to write about a person who had influenced them. And almost everybody writes about an adult, their parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, coach, teacher, whomever. I'd never had a student write about another student until one of Davron's teammates wrote about him. And it was one of the most genuine and awesome endorsements of another human being that I've ever come across. And that's a real testament to Davron. So Davron.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Coach Dawson for having me and all the sponsors and everybody. Glad to see everybody up here doing well. Just to piggyback off what Willie said, you have to learn to stay disciplined through the tough times because right now it's COVID-19. A lot of things on the world is going on. There's a lot of negativity, and tough times are going to come to you no matter who you are or how big of a person you are. It's going to come to you. You have to put the blinders on, just maintain focus, and keep going. Write down your goals, everything. A little quick story. Team 90. We went to the playoffs for 15 years. First time in 15 years. So that summer, going to my senior year, the seniors came together and we were determined to go to the playoffs because we didn't want to go out with a losing record. So even before the season started, people were saying we were going to have a bad season. People in school, people in other schools said we were going to have a bad season. So we stayed in the weight room, stayed on the football field, really pushed each other to the max. Conditioning tests helped out a lot. We really just stayed focused and trusted the process. And we just had to build a chemistry with coaches, within ourselves, just maintain focus and discipline because everybody's throwing negative things at us and the team. So we had to block all that out. It's kind of the same thing that's going on at Central right now, how a new coach has come in and we really didn't have a good season to start off with, but our team is very young, just like Team 90. And we really have to come together and just maintain focus if you want to do anything and go further within our conference. Don't forget your why. That's one of the main reasons why we stay focused. Our why. Our why's played a big role in what we succeeded in. Another philosophy Coach Dawson preaches to us is to have fun with our teammates. Bring a great attitude to everything you do, no matter what it is, how hard it is. Just bring a great attitude. Let's see. That's about all. Just be a great man. Everything you do, have fun. Don't bring your head down. Just stay focused and keep your eyes on the prize.
Well said, Davron. And speaking of great men, you're already one. And I'm serious, and I can't wait to see what you do in the next few years at Central and then after that. And You Team 90 guys always have a special place in my heart.
Yes, sir.
That, talk about discipline. That was a group that really and truly decided to change the narrative that they'd been a part of at Broughton for a long time. And not only did they decide they were going to go to the playoffs, but they were willing to put in the work to do it. He worked his tail off. So thank you, David.
Thank
I
you,
love
Coach.
you.
Love you
Take
too,
care.
Coach.
All right. Okay. Up next, a former teammate of mine, Matt Forte, who we overlapped for 2 years at Tulane University. Early in his career, it was obvious to everyone, including myself, that he was going to be a standout because of his habits, which I tell my kids this story every year. But one of the habits that Matt had, I'm going to talk about two, was that anytime he touched the ball on the practice field, he ran all the way into the end zone with it, which is great, but it can be inconvenient sometimes. So, for instance, sometimes we do a mesh drill where it's just the quarterbacks and running backs working on handoffs, and everybody else goes 3 yards at half speed. If you were on the 1 yard line and you had the ball pointed in the wrong direction, he'd take it 99 yards to the house the other way, and then you have to wait for him to jog back. The other habit I remember is when we were there in the summer, they had a morning workout or an afternoon workout that you could come to, and Matt was the only person who chose to go to both. So that was what separated him, early on. That really came to fruition his senior year when I think he was either led the nation in rushing or was very close. He was a second-round draft pick of the Bears, where he had a phenomenal career. He played 10 years in the NFL, and during those 10 years that he was in the league, no one had more yards from scrimmage than he did. So he had more yards than anyone else in those 10 years that he was in the league. He's named 2 Pro Bowls and ranked second in virtually every Chicago Bears running back record, behind only Walter Payton, who's arguably the greatest running back of all time. He's still very active in Chicago. He serves his community through his What's Your Forte Foundation. He also works with the United Way as well as some other groups. So, Matt, thank you so much for being here. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Coach, and I appreciate it. What's up to the Broughton football team? An honor to be speaking to you guys tonight. And tonight I'm going to talk about overcoming failure, because if you got a heartbeat, you're going to encounter some failure in your life. You're going to encounter some obstacles. So first I'll talk about kind of what Chris was saying was at Tulane, my senior year, I had all the obstacles stacked against me. I had a brand new coach coming in, brand new offense, brand new offensive coordinator. It's your senior year, so you obviously that's going to throw a wrench into your plans. But also my junior year, I'm coming off of a knee injury. I had to get PCL surgery and a lateral meniscus surgery, and I went through all the spring with a brace on my knee. So, nobody's counting me to be leading the nation in rushing or anything like that. But long story short, all those obstacles I didn't care about. I had one goal to get to, and I wanted to obviously make myself known and get to NFL. And I did that by rushing for over 2,100 yards in my senior year. And that's not just a testament to me, that's a testament to my teammates and, leading everybody in the mindset of not, falling to, what everybody else's perception of your team is going to be. And so with that being said, I want to encourage you guys to let your failure fuel your focus and fuel your fight and also your faith in life. And failure is a prerequisite for success. And so if you think about success, don't be surprised when you encounter failure or you encounter it or don't be discouraged by it, because it's a prerequisite to succeed. When you're trying to succeed at something, you're going to encounter some obstacles, some trials, some tribulations. And so you shouldn't be surprised by that. We've also heard a lot of guys before me talk about leadership. Being a leader, you're going to have to know how to overcome failure. And a lot of people use the term lead by example, but I want to challenge you guys to think bigger than that, because honestly, leading by example isn't really a thing to me, because when you say lead by example, you're really just doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing in the first place. And yes, that's the beginning steps towards attacking a goal, but it doesn't deserve a special honor because you're just doing what you're supposed to be doing in the first place. The honor goes to the one who goes above and beyond what's called that the one who goes above and beyond what's called of them, and the one who can encounter those obstacles and continue the journey and not quit. The obstacle that causes you to fail can be seen as a stumbling block or a stepping stone on the way to the next level, because both of them look the same as you approach them. Well, what makes the difference between a stumbling block and a stepping stone is you and how you approach that. So when you encounter failure, will you let your failure be final, or will you let it fuel your focus to fix the issue so you can move forward? If you miss your goal, it's probably because your shot was off a little bit. So you might just need to tweak something here and there a little bit. You see, failure to be the end of what could have been or the beginning of what can be. And so you have to let that failure fuel your fight. Anyone can give up. It takes neither effort or talent to quit something. And so the only thing that you gain by quitting or giving up is the self-awareness and the knowledge of everyone else that you weren't fully invested in what you were trying to achieve. And so it is it's human nature to seek comfort. And I want to challenge you guys never to seek the comfortable situation, whether that be on the football field, on the practice field, in the classroom, or in life. You can't have the mindset that I need to do something the easy way, or because that never works out. Nobody who's ever done something great in life has ever done it from a place of comfort or ease. It's always had to be a sacrifice that cost them something. And so a wise man once told me that there's no smooth mountains. And I thought that was profound, even though it's a simple statement. It's because metaphorically, the path to success has rough terrain, potholes, pitfalls, dead ends, plateaus, immovable objects. You get the point. But the one thing that all those seemingly negative obstacles have in common is that they all have a purpose, and they've been set in place for you to use them on the way to the top. Meaning that if you have a mountain that you're trying to climb, you wouldn't be able to climb it if it was smooth. So you need those pitfalls, those obstacles, and that rough terrain so that you can have good footing to be able to climb the mountain to success. In closing, honestly, I've thrown a lot at you. If there's one thing I want you to remember, is this, and it's the most important part of the message. And I'd say when you overcome failure, you build character. And a lot of guys have talked about character. Having a solid character is more valuable than any athletic talent because it transcends the white line on the football field. The worst thing a man can be is a public success and a private failure. So use your failure as your fuel.
Man, you just brought it so hard. I love it. You mentioned the word profound. You said a lot of profound things right there. I tell our guys, failure or loss or hardship is always the best teacher. It's hard to learn things when everything's going right. But when you encounter difficulties, that's when you have to get better. You have to change. You have to grow. And that really the only true failure is quitting, right? As long as you keep plugging away, then you're not failing. You're just getting better. So that was really well said. Thank you so much. It's awesome to have you here. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Will Riggins.
Sir.
My guy. Will graduated in 2018. He was a senior on Team 89. That was my second year at Broughton. A great player, really hard worker. In fact, and people who played with him can attest to this, he sweated more than just about any human being I've ever seen. So you could see his work ethic kind of dripping off of him and pooling up on the floor. But it paid off. His hard work earned him all conference honors as a senior. And he just had a really outstanding career for us. Not only did his teammates love him, but Will was beloved by everyone in the school: students, teachers, administrators, custodians. Everyone who knew Will loved him. You're about to see why. But not surprisingly, when our principal was asked to choose one student out of 2,300 in the school To serve on the superintendent's advisory committee, she chose Will. Will be a junior at Carolina Wesleyan College this year, where he plays football and studies psychology. Will, thank you for being here, buddy.
No problem. Thank you. I have the opportunity of talking about football families today, which has been a very important aspect of my years at Broughton. I spent 4 years playing there, and I grew so much as a man and as a player and as an individual also. I learned many things just from the whole aspect of having a football family. And as Coach Dawson talked about earlier with the families, there's 8 of us, and each family gets a leader. And I had the opportunity of actually being one of those leaders. And it really gave me the opportunity of becoming more of a vocal leader, because in my eyes, I see as vocal leaders, and then there's also leaders that lead throughout their actions on the field. And I was always more comfortable being that type of leader, as in showing through my actions, not complaining, being coachable, trying to work hard, and just really being able to put myself last and really do things for the team. And I thought that was just a way for me to be a good leader, and I wouldn't have to really speak up as much or be as vocal. But throughout the football families, that was one of the ways that really helped me step out of that comfort zone and really get comfortable with that. And the whole aspect of the family, which was I was the yellow team, which was I had a whole group, and it was different positions, different races, different ages, different grade levels, and it was all of us coming together. And it was just the aspect of competition, really being able to compete with one another and being able to work together as a team. We would do different competitions. We would do tug of war, and being able to really have your teammates back, and the importance of that. To me, football is 11 people on the field, and it's each person has one job, and you do that job to the best of your ability, and that's how you succeed. You don't have to worry about whatever the job is that the person next to you is doing, but just having that trust that they will do their job and that you will be able to do your job also. And I think that the whole football family was such a big way for us to be able to build that competition through each other, and also be able to challenge each other through practice. It might get heated or anything, just because you have someone pushing you that you might think that, nope, this is it, I can't go any farther. But that whole family aspect, you have different people being able to pull more out of you, which is really important. And just being able to have that actually transfers into game, where you have the ability to actually have the faith in the teammates with you, and know that you're going to be able to do your one job, and the 11 people doing their one job together. That's what makes the team work. And the family aspect that I learned through Broughton really helped me hone on that skills, really helped me to hone on to that. And not just on the field also, but as the family in the classrooms, keeping each other up on grades, making sure each other went to class on time, no tardies, just the little things, being able to master those little details as an individual together, and then being able to have people have your back. If you don't understand something in the class, you have a football family. You might not be good at math, but your teammate might be. Boom, there you go. Y'all have a tutor session. And it's just that aspect of getting comfortable with people you don't know. And just because you play with them on the football field, it was just that you got comfortable seeing them in the hallways, eating lunch with them. We had a family outing with our yellow family, where we actually got out to eat, went out to go to corral with each other, and it was just being able to laugh and joke and get to know, what makes what makes each other click, and just being able to really work together. You get to know the ins and outs of your teammates, just off the field and on the field, and be able to have those heart-to-heart conversations and really, really get to build with each other, and being able to push through the different obstacles that you're faced with. And what was it? Oh yeah. Also, I learned leadership. The leadership skills from the family didn't just transfer from the football field, but they also helped me now in the community and through college. I took everything that I learned from Broughton. I was able to bring it with me to Wesleyan. And now our linebacker core, which is what I play linebacker, is so tight that it's like kind of like a brotherhood. Really, it's a circle of brothers that we know we're gonna have each other's back. No matter what, we're gonna have each other's back. And it's just the little things, being able to eat with each other, being able to have those conversations and get comfortable with each other. And that's really the whole aspect of a football family, is what I got out of the program. Thank you.
Willie, my guy, I loved the enthusiasm and joy that you spoke about your football family with. That's really cool. And it's a testament to how much it means to you and what a wonderful thing it is to be a part of. So
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you very much. Know that you are forever a part of the Broughton football family. And I love you, buddy.
Thank you. Love you too, Coach.
All right. We've got 2 speakers left. Next up, Micah Kiser. Mike and I go way back. I taught him in English when he was a freshman at Gilman many, many years ago. I also coached him in football and JV basketball. When I was his JV basketball coach, I would send Micah out before the game started to meet the other captains. And he went out there with Henry Poggi, who played tight end at Michigan, and Kenny Goins, who played fullback at Maryland. And the 3 of them going out to shake hands before a JV basketball game was one of the more ridiculous and intimidating things you will ever see. After Gilman, Micah went on to UVA, where he demonstrated exactly what it means to be a student athlete and human being of the highest caliber. As Virginia's middle linebacker, he led the ACC in tackles for 3 consecutive seasons. Luke Kuechly is the only other player in the history of the ACC to do that. So pretty rarefied air. Maybe even more impressive, he maintained a 4.0 GPA in the classroom while at Virginia. And his senior year, he won the Maxwell Award, which is probably better known as the academic Heisman. The summer before Micah's senior season, there was a white supremacist march through Charlottesville that you're probably all aware of. And Micah organized the football team's response to that. Athletics, academics, and social justice. This guy is the total package. Tomorrow, Micah will start training camp in his 3rd season as a linebacker with the LA Rams. Micah, thank you so much for being here.
Coach Dawson, thanks for having me. This is great to be a part of. Just as a fan of football and a fan of the game, to hear from guys like Willie Parker, Matt Forte, Coach Ehrmann, some of the Broughton football guys. It's just an honor to be a part of this fraternity of football guys. And then kind of just thinking about what I wanted to say to you guys, it made me really reflect on, my life in the game and some of my experiences. And kind of 2 themes kind of came up most. The themes of sacrifice and then accountability. When you think about football, even going back to my high school days, it takes an incredible amount of personal sacrifice in order to do well in this or even play the game. When thinking about high school ball, you had spring football, summer workouts. In the summer, we were doing 7-on-7 working out. We had meetings every Wednesday night. Then you had training camp 2-a-days, and you're putting in all this time. You're sacrificing, vacations and all this time for literally a handful of games. And, it takes a lot. But, you sacrifice, your social life. You're not going out as much. You're sacrificing your time. I mean, thinking about high school, just our coaches used to monitor our huddles and make sure we were on huddle and watching film. And this is all when 17 years old, you're giving up all this time, and that's what it takes. And a coach of mine, Coach Wade Phillips, D coordinator for the Rams the last few years, and a Super Bowl winning coach, he used to always tell us as a team, if it's important to you, you'll get it done. And so personal sacrifice is a huge part of the game, a huge part of ball. But at the same time, while you're doing that personal sacrifice yourself, you kind of look at the guys next to you, and your teammates are doing the same thing. You guys are in it together. You're giving up your time. You're working really hard, as the brain said, I think his name. They made a decision together, like, hey, we're going to sacrifice a lot for us to try to make the playoffs. And they did that. And out of that, you gain a sense of team sacrifice, and you start to think about each other. You gain accountability, which in my opinion, accountability is the most important thing in the game of football. Football is unique in that it's one of the only sports where it literally takes every man on the field, working in unison to be successful. It's not like basketball where you can have LeBron James, you can have the best player, and if you have the best player, you're going to win. On football, it takes all 11 guys. I can't, all the times, and I've heard, in playing defense, if one guy's in the wrong gap, what could be a 3-yard game turned into an 80-yard game. Or how many times, Coach Dawson's probably called a play on offense and everyone's doing what they're supposed to do, but, the guard got the wrong call. He misses his guy, and now the quarterback's sack, and what could have been a touchdown is now, a negative play. So, accountability in football and doing your job is super important. But what you learn through accountability and through the game is that your actions, they don't only affect you, they affect the guy next to you. And through those, that level of personal sacrifice and team sacrifice, and you gain that level of accountability, you value the guy next to you just as much as you value yourself. And that's what it's all about. Very few times in football workouts, if a guy, misses his time or doesn't touch a line, there's very few times where a strength and conditioning coach will only punish that guy. He punishes the whole team. And that's what it's all about. You gain this collective view of, in order for us to be successful, it takes every one of us. And that's what it's all about, really, everyone coming together. And, in this time of, COVID-19 and everything, I think these two kind of go hand in hand as kind of important things that we need to, really value moving forward. You see people kind of complaining about masks. Like, that's just a small sacrifice that you need to make on a personal level, but it affects the men, the guy next to you, the lady across the street from you. They're just little sacrifices that we can make that end up having a big, a big thing to do with everybody else. So just in closing, personal sacrifice, team sacrifice, and accountability. Those are really 3 huge things that have kind of, had a huge impact on my life in the game of ball, and really, carried me to where I am now and kind of carrying me as I am a man today.
That was great. You can tell this guy was a 4.0 GPA guy at UVA. So a couple of things you talked about there. I love the point you made about COVID-19. It's one of those things, you can see this in other countries. If everybody just does what they're supposed to do and is willing to make a very small sacrifice, really,
Yep.
It can save a lot of lives. And that's I can't think of a more dramatic example of that. And related to that, we talk about all the time, we talk about, men, when you become a man, maturity. In my mind, maturity is all about understanding that everything you do impacts other people and caring. Like you get that kids don't understand. I can tell you my 5-year-old and 2-year-old don't understand what they do. They don't get that everything they do impacts their parents. And if they do, they might not care. But that's what it means to be a good person, is you recognize that all of your actions have consequences for other people, and you want to make the most positive impact on other people as possible. So thank you so much for talking about that. You're the man.
Thanks for having me, Coach.
Oh, it's great to have you. Good luck this season, too. All right, our final speaker, Sophie Rodehuskers. So, in some ways, Sophie may not first appear to fit in with the rest of tonight's speakers, but after she's done, there will be no doubt in your mind that she belongs. In 14 years of coaching, Sophie stands out as one of the most committed teammates I've ever had the pleasure to work with. Sophie moved to America from Germany halfway through her freshman year of high school, and while in the RDU airport, eating Bojangles for the first time, she also saw American football for the first time on one of the screens in the terminal, and she knew immediately that she wanted to try it. So Sophie played JV football for Broughton her sophomore and junior years as a defensive end, which is right before I got there. After suffering a concussion, she decided not to play her senior year, but asked me if she could help manage the team. I said, of course, and she went on to be much, much, much more than a manager. She was really another coach. Whatever we needed done, Sophie did it. No job was too big or too small. She made such an impression on me that the Servant Leadership Award we give out each year is now named in her honor. That goes on the plaque that we give out every year. Sophie is now back in Germany studying physics at the University of Oldenburg. It is 2 a.m. where she is. So thank you, Sophie, so much for staying up late to help us out.
Thank you so much, Coach, for having me.
Pleasure.
So ahead of this event, Coach asked me to talk a bit about the lessons that I learned from coming from the Broughton football program. And as he just said, I came to America the middle of my freshman year. And during that first half year, it was kind of hard, being in this new environment and not really knowing what was going on with people, because people are very different in different countries. But during that first half year, I kind of decided if there was one super American thing that I wanted to try while I was in the States, it was going to be American football. And so I asked one of the coaches. I was allowed to join the summer workouts the summer before my sophomore year for the JV football team. And of course, it was awkward at first because I was the only girl there. I was German. I didn't really know the sport. I was not athletic whatsoever. But it didn't take long for me to realize that none of that actually mattered, because I immediately felt the sense that, the coaches were giving me a chance and my teammates were also giving me a chance. So all I had to do was take it, which is exactly what I tried to do for the 2 years that I played. I just tried to give it everything I had. And so the first big lesson that I got from that was really that it's not about the results that you produce on the field, because I started out in the weight room benching a broomstick, and after 3 years, I was up to 125 pounds in the weight room. So that's an improvement right there. And I learned that it wasn't about how much that improvement was. It was just that you kept working at it. It was about the effort. And so really becoming a part of this community wasn't as much about, proving to the guys that I could be a superstar on the field, which I was never going to be. And I knew that. It was just about putting in everything I had into, working toward this common goal, which was making every single one of us better, making each other better, and making our team the best that it could be. And so as we started working toward this common goal over the season, we really grew close as a community. And that's what I really value about my experience with football, was just this incredible sense of community. So community and trust and respect for effort was the first thing that I learned in Broughton football. But there was a second aspect that came into it when I became team manager, which was that I didn't really have a clear assignment at the time. Instead, I kind of decided to adopt a mindset of helping out wherever I could with as much effort as I could, while looking around what was happening around me and just looking out for the bigger picture. And what that meant to me was, I did little stuff like fix cleats, fix helmets, sort uniforms, whatever. But by paying attention to when it was happening, who was helping me or who was organizing it, and how it was getting done, I kind of got a sense of how this program was being run behind the scenes and what it would take to run this program through an in-season week of football. So when the fall came and kind of became apparent that we would have some struggles with the JV team, and I had to kind of step in and help lead the team through that season, that wasn't a problem anymore, because I knew what it would take to keep it running, or to step in, and I knew exactly where to step in and where I didn't need to do anything because it was working by itself. So this kind of approach of helping out while looking for the bigger picture is really something that I've taken with me from the program. And it's something that I use wherever I go. Like when I joined here back in Germany at college, I joined the Student Council of Physics. And it was the same thing, putting the effort into helping out. It was the same thing when I joined the research group that I'm in for my bachelor's thesis. And it was also the same thing when I joined the women's football team. But before I go into that, I want to just mention one more thing about the leadership, which I noticed during that season as a manager, was that I noticed a clear difference between my interactions with the guys that knew me as a player, where we had already established this mutual trust and respect, and the guys where that hadn't happened yet just because we never played together. And so that really proved to me that you can't really, just being in a position of authority is not what makes you a leader. What makes you a leader is being accepted by the guys as part of your group, as part of the community. And once you have that mutual trust and respect going, and you have a common goal that you're working towards, if everybody's putting in the same effort, that's how you can lead your team towards achieving your mission. So that's the second big thing I learned there. After returning to Germany, like I just said, I took all those lessons with me. And I joined a women's football team here locally called the Unbach Outlaws Coyotes. And the season that I joined them, it was going to be their first ever season that they were going to play. And so they've been building this team for, I think, 5 years or something before they ever got to their first season. And that was really the mission that kept them together over those years. But that wasn't actually the amazing thing that season. The much more amazing thing I learned was that we were rookies, so we weren't really in the game yet. We had to collect some experience first. But no matter how experienced the other teams were that we were playing, and no matter how much they beat us by, we would just get in one big huddle. Everybody would get in a big huddle at the end of the game and just celebrate being able to play football, and celebrate each other for playing the sport and celebrating the community that we were all a part of. And that was just something totally different that I hadn't really expected, because I knew, from Broughton that you had a mission as a single program, but I didn't know this kind of overarching mission among a whole kind of nation, football nation, if you will. But it even gets better than that, because it's not just a football nation. At the end of the season, we went to a women's European football camp in Denmark with 3 of our ladies. And we got to meet women playing football all over Europe, and even 2 playing in the States. And we all kind of started talking to each other. We realized we have this same goal, really, which is to just grow the sport. And by that, I mean, of course, we're all trying, in our individual programs, trying to win our first games, trying to win championships, no matter which level you're at. But it was kind of this experiencing this overarching sense of community that actually crossed borders, really, that was really impressive to me. And I don't think it's something that's restricted to women's football, really, because there were male coaches there as well from all over Europe and all over the world. And I think it's a thing everywhere, that every program has its individual mission, but this whole community of football all across the world has this mission of growing football as a sport. And that can mean, just getting players into your team if you're a club starting out, or showing women that they're able to play the sport just as well as men are. Or if you're just teaching boys to be good men, to make your players the best that they can be. Thank you.
Sophie, that was awesome. And that's great. Hey, and that team won 2 games. You won some games there. And I watched some games on, it was like YouTube Live. It was like this, I guess. So Sophie, as you can tell, is a really unique young woman who was a huge part of our program my first year, and really kept the JV team together in a lot of ways. That team didn't have enough support, which was my fault, but Sophie stepped into the gap and held the ship together and kept it sailing. And she's just tremendously helpful. And I've told this to people before. If someone says that you're helpful, it's about the greatest compliment you can receive. And Sophie might be the most helpful person I've ever met. So every organization, you're welcome. Every organization, team, family you're a part of from here on out will be much stronger because of you. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you get some good sleep tonight.
You too.
All right, I will wrap things up. Thank you guys for staying with us. I've only got maybe 1 more minute of things to talk about. I want to thank everyone out there watching so much for joining us tonight. In a time when we desperately need courageous, principled, empathetic, wholehearted leaders, I believe that we can play a very important part. We have a special mission in terms of Broughton football, and I appreciate your support of that mission. I want to thank our speakers. What an amazing group of people. The last couple of weeks, people keep texting me like, how did you get all these people to speak at a high school event? And I don't know, but I'm really glad it happened. So I'm humbled that all of you were willing to participate in this event. I want to thank the folks responsible for making it happen: Carr McLam, Charles Shook, John Mitchell, Trey Walker, Jody Kincaid, and Tom McGuire. Everything you see on the screen that is working the right way is because of Tom. Thank you again to all of our sponsors and to everyone who donated tonight. Football is just a really, really expensive sport, and without your generosity, we literally couldn't equip everybody in a program as large as ours. If you're interested in donating and or joining the Broughton Gridiron Club, stay tuned. Coach McGuire is going to put all that information up on the screen. I hope all of you stay healthy and happy as we continue to push through these trying times together. Go Caps.